I have challenged my dad to a one-season mission based around Ruben Amorim. We are both going to become the manager of Manchester United, while adopting a tactic that is loosely based around Ruben Amorim's 3-4-3 system. But we have been given £150 million to spend in the summer window. So as we both take on the challenge, who buys the right players with the money and has a more successful season? Because the winner of this challenge will get an extra £50 million in the next one-season challenge that we take on. And how we determine a winner is by a point system in which you can gain points for how far we get in competitions or even through topping player or team statistics. So now it's time to place your bets on who will win the Manchester United Ruben Amorim challenge down in the comments. To kick things off in this challenge, I used the tactic I built in my Ajax Youth to Gold as a base, which is the same shape, and I put players in that I would lock in if I couldn't find replacements, while changing the player roles to create a more Amorim-friendly system with Manchester United. I identified a centre-back as a weakness in my lineup in terms of squad depth and spent my first portion of the £150 million on Brighton's Van Heck because he has excellent ball-playing abilities. On top of that £55 million, I spent another £22 million on Morita from Sporting, Amorim's old player that has a great blend of ball playing abilities and ball winning abilities. But then my final player, costing me £54 million, totaling to £131 million, is Jose Gaya, who I have decided is the perfect left-sided wing-back or winger. And we have landed with our 3-4-3 Amorim style tactic, which looks rather symmetrical, and our best 11 right now may force me to lock in Mazraoui on the right and Højlund up top and let Van Heck fight his way into the lineup. And to say that I started well is an understatement, as we went to Anfield and gained a deserved 1-0 win. New signing Morita even scored on the opening day of the season with the last of the 4 goals against Brentford. And players like Mason Mount and Rasmus Højlund have thrived in this tactic at the early point of the season, as we win all 3 of our Premier League fixtures and sit top of the league on 9 points. But the big question is, what has my dad been up to? So, Dad, you've just seen what I've done with my £150 million, plus the system, or obviously we know the shape, but obviously how I'm using it. Are you just as confident, more confident? What are you thinking?
I'm not as confident because I don't like this tactic, so it's new to me. I've never played 3 at the back, so everything's new to me. I'm sort of like picking my way around what players to buy. I felt, I mean, the left back, the left side of the defence, like you said, was your weakness. I agree with that, but I stayed away from that. I've gone for spine of the team. I do that quite a bit. I concentrate on the spine of the team, and I just felt right. Just stick to what you know. So that's what I've done. All
right, well, let's have a look at Dad's signings then. Again, £150 million, and it looks like you have spent it.
I did, yes. I spent every single penny of it.
Right, well, that doesn't surprise me one bit. You brought in 4 players in total.
Yeah.
This is a weird one.
Yeah, do you know?
Why would you spend? I mean, that's a third of your budget on a position that I don't think needs changing.
Well, I looked at it, and I've never liked the United keeper, and he was available at that price, and I thought, that's a really good price for that keeper. And I just thought, if I've got I'm saying again, like that spine, I always really sort of concentrate my teams on a really good goalkeeper, and I thought, if I get a really good keeper in, my defence is going to be even stronger. That was my sort of thinking behind it. So I know I spent 50 million on him, but I'm just hoping it was a good 50 million.
I just think you're addicted to buying goalkeepers. Yes. Goalkeepers are like crack cocaine for you. You just cannot stop buying them.
It was just one of those things. I just looked at the United keeper and I just don't like him, and I would never buy him. So no, and when you've got that in your head, it was this guy popped up, and I thought, hang on a minute. So my scouts brought him forward to me. I didn't go looking for him. It was just my scouts brought him up, and I just thought, that's a good price for him.
And then more money was also spent on Andreas Christensen.
Yeah, out of the 3 defenders that I had there, I thought I had one weakness there really. So I wanted to get at least one good, what I class as a really good, strong centre defender in. That's why I got this guy in. He's a ball-playing defender as well, which is what I wanted. You say strong,
he's got 11 strength?
No, I mean as strong as in, not in strength, but as a player.
Right, okay.
I think he's got everything else is good for him.
Then we've got Gabriel Barbosa.
Yeah, I wasn't convinced on the strikers that I had there that they're going to do a job, and I wanted to move one of them out. So I knew I had a space there. So I bought this guy in for me because I know he will score goals. So that's why I bought him in.
Okay, and then finally, Javier Schlager from Red Bull Leipzig, or RB Leipzig.
Yeah. Casemiro, I just didn't want Casemiro in the team.
Yeah.
That's why I bought this guy. This was my hardest buy. I spent. It was a good job you won here when I done my team, because you would do absolutely mental. I guarantee you, for those 4 players, I spent at least 2.5 hours on the computer.
And this is still only who he got. That is still only who you got. I mean,
that last position was the hardest. The last player I bought was the hardest one I sort of spent time on.
Right. Okay. So that's what, 42. Yes, you spent literally 149 million.
Yeah. 149 and 500, I think it was.
Now, if you somehow win this, fair play. But miraculously, I'm looking at that and going, that's a poor 150 million pound. Just in my opinion, of course. Maybe you think different. Let us know down in the comments.
I think my problem is I didn't like the tactics, so
maybe.
Yeah.
Before we actually go and see the results, put a prediction in. Out of the 2, which do you think spent the money better? And obviously, whose signage you prefer. That's another thing that you can let us know down there. So the system that you played, obviously we have to keep the same shape.
Yes.
But you have gone for an advanced forward, very similar to myself, but 1 attacking midfielder, 1 advanced playmaker, 2 wide midfielders. Is that on purpose? Because I know what you sometimes do. You have that position and then you forget that it's on wide midfielder and don't change anything.
I'll be honest with you.
You've given them instructions.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't think I could change the wide midfielder. I thought they had to stay as a wide midfielder.
No, of course. I said to you can change it in
I didn't realise that.
any player role.
I would have changed it to wide winger.
I never said that you couldn't change the player roles, because you have changed player roles.
I struggled on especially the left-hand side, because I felt we were very weak as a wide midfielder. And I put the 2 players there, that was Rashford and... what's the other guy? Garnacho. And I put them both on training for that position.
Right, okay. So we got a DM on defend, a ball-winning midfielder on support, 2 ball-playing defenders on ease-off tackles as well.
Yeah, I don't like my defenders sliding in their tackles. So
and then a centre defender on cover with a sweeper keeper on attack. Now, instructions-wise, I don't think I've ever seen you use anything like this. Working the ball into box, lower tempo, shorter pass and directness.
I'm just trying something different because I didn't like the tactic really. So I did struggle with it, I must admit. So
only counter press, but not counter, taking short kicks. And then opposition instructions. We've even got a low block or a mid block with a higher defensive line, more often trigger press, and prevent the short goal kick distribution. Odd instructions, I must admit.
I'm all over the place with this tactic, aren't I?
But okay, now I think you spent so long buying the players.
Yeah, I probably did. I was just brainwashed.
That you've neglected the actual tactics.
I must admit,
no matter how many times I tell you, probably, Dad, tactics more important than the players you buy.
I didn't actually start simulating this season until I think it's about 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, it shows, if I'm honest. Now, schedule. You've beaten Brentford at the start of the season. You also won the Community Shield, but we don't count that, of course, as an actual trophy. We never have, never will. 3-0 loss against Liverpool, which, of course, I beat Liverpool in my fixtures.
Yeah.
We had the same fixtures, and a 1-1 draw with Fulham. So, as it stands, you're 10th in the Premier League, slightly off where I was at the start of the season. But we're 3 games in, and a lot can change. And, of course, there's a lot of trophies up for grabs, and a lot of points to be won. Because, as you've seen at the start, if we are two positions different in the Premier League, that's 2 points for the person who has finished above. You might go out in the 3rd round, I might go out in the semis, and that means an extra 4 or 5 points depending on how many rounds there are for me to pick up, because I got a point for every round that I lasted longer than what yourself did, and vice versa. That's how we're doing this, and that is what goes down to the £50 million that we're putting up for grabs on the next 1 season challenge that we're going to be doing. Of course, give us some suggestions for that. So let's see how this season plays out. Yes, with Dan and I spending our budgets at Manchester United and the season underway, we have to set an expectation set by Ruben Amorim himself. Now, before we see how each of us have done, I've run a simulation with Ruben Amorim in charge. Now he is. I have put him as our assistant managers on our when we simulate. Because I thought, well, why not? But he is naturally in charge of everything in this simulation here, and he finished in 4th place. Interestingly enough. Now on the game, he does have a slightly different tactic. He has them as wing backs, which that's not correct. I don't think. Even when he was at Sporting, it wasn't wing-back. So I think that's something that the game needs to be changed because it goes as a 5-2-3 and not the same system or same shape what we are using. This system's a lot easier to have good seasons with. But they finished in 4th place. Transfer-wise, did he bring anyone in? So let's have a look. He doesn't look like they brought anybody in at the start of the season. Amar Dedic was the only guy, so a left-back. Not amazing. Leonardo Lelo, I think, is another left-back. So, again, nobody incredible. Duarte, or Gorna Duarte is kind of their only good player that they have brought in, a good CDM. And then Rivera from Banfield. Again, nobody that's going to be challenging the first team. I mean, that's BTEC Garnacho right there, right? So, transfer-wise, they haven't really used it. And we gave him the same, £150 million. In terms of the competitions, he only got to the quarter-final of the Europa League. Knocked out by French side Lille. In the FA Cup, it was the 5th round before losing to Chelsea. Again, a difficult team to come up against that early on. And in the EFL 3rd round, he got through against Peterborough. The 4th round, though, they lost to Hull. Ooh. So a really bad season in the Cups. But I think Manchester United fans like myself would take a 4th place finish this season for sure. But even at the start of the season, a 4th place finish, 72 points with Arsenal winning the league there. Okay, that's an interesting one. It kind of gives us like there's a level. So let's see if we manage to beat each other, but also Ruben Amorim himself.
Now, unlike Dad, I was a lot more optimistic about my signings and the system I had created in the Amorim shape. And speaking of Ruben Amorim, I was producing wins against our city rivals in big games. Dad, on the other hand, definitely made mistakes in the early part of the season with his signings, such as possibly relying too much on the current players to fill the wide roles and replacing already established positions on the pitch, like in goal. But could he be bluffing and secretly confident of his performance? Well, we've seen how Amorim's done. Let's see how my season went.
All right, you are looking at how I did with a Ruben Amorim system at Manchester United of £150 million. 6th place with 66 points. However, there is a Champions League spot right there. And that is because I won the Europa League and I was so close to making it 2 trophies because I got to the Carabao Cup final and I lost to Bristol City.
That's worse than losing to Hull.
I mean, at least I got to the final, but I mean, even in the semi-final, 6-0 I beat Manchester City in one leg. 6-0 in the semi-final.
I can understand him losing the Hull because he probably rested a few players, but when you're in the final, you play your best team.
Yeah.
And you lose to Bristol City.
Quarter-final was Leicester on penalties, 4th round, Coventry. So I had a fairly easy run up until that semi-final and an easy final when we blew it. Lost 3-2 in that final. So a really disappointing result. However, got to be positive. That's 5 points for winning the Europa League. That's the most points we can accumulate from one competition in this. And I have done it, beaten Roma in the final 3-1. Knocked out Feyenoord in the semi-final. Quarter-final was Ajax. There was a Dutch thing going on there. Round of 16, Benfica. So good there. Did play in the knockout playoff round, and that is because in my group stage, as we can see, I topped it, only losing once to Real Sociedad, drawing to Slavia Prague, and winning 4 games. Now, of course, so that's 5 points. I get quite a, well, unless you've actually won the Carabao Cup, I should accumulate some points there. Quarterfinal in the FA Cup.
Done well in the Cups, really.
Man City, yeah, that's not too bad, to be honest, because if you get to the semi-final, it's only 1 point drop. If you get to the final and win it, all right, it's 5 points maybe. But
you're knocked out early. And
that's it.
Trouble.
That's the trouble. So 2-0 against Manchester City in that round. But the Premier League, 6th place. Not a great finish. And I was ever so close. And Rasmus Højlund obviously getting another point there. He finished with 19-1 behind Erling Haaland. So player statistics, I get 1 point. Because by the looks of it, Andre Onana maybe picked up an injury. Must have. Yeah, major injury. Was out for a while. Broke his hand. Had a few injuries as well.
He's just done a good goalkeeper, is he?
I think he's a great goalkeeper in this. India had the fewest conceded. And you had to play a certain amount of games for it to qualify. He gets a point for it. Picks up a point there by India. Probably the one player on the squad that I would have suggested probably won't win me a point. Has won a point for me. In the team overview, though, no points. Didn't get first in any of these. In fact, I was kind of 3rd and 4th
for quite a lot of them, nowhere near close. Especially the goals, like 70 goals. I was 25 off. Nowhere near. So I've accumulated a good amount of points, but can Dad do better? Before we check Dad's, though, I thought what would be interesting is to see how the new signings have done. Rasmus Højlund got me 28 goals. I locked him in. That was a good decision, I think. His development was quite good, but of course we're not playing any more seasons. I was surprised by the amount of games Eriksson played, maybe. Bruno Fernandes has done well. The only sign that really made an impact for me was Jose Guy, and I thought he would. He played majority of the time, got 10 assists, 7 goals, really good. The other signings, maybe not so much. Maurice only played 2 games that he started, 20 off the bench. Kind of expected that. Van Heck, actually, I'm being a bit harsh. 47 games, 2 off the bench, got 6 assists from centre-back. Not too bad at all, really. So out of those 3 signings, maybe only one of them was kind of a flop. But even then, I mean, he cost me £22 million. I didn't spend that much on him. It ain't too bad. So let's see then how Dad has done. Has he got more points than I have? All right, then, let's have a look. Dad, you finished in 7th place. 1 position lower
than I was. At the end of the season, I started having bad results. Look, lost 3, drew 1 of them last 5.
Yeah,
cost me dearly.
Although I won a point for that, finishing 1 position higher, you also have the Champions League qualification next to your name, and that is because you also won the Europa League. So you gain that 5 points. Neither of us gain any points for finishing further because you won it, same as me. We also finished both in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. You lost to Brentford in this, 3-2. So, again,
I felt I could have won that one. Well, mind you, Liverpool still in it.
No points either way. It's getting very tight.
Yeah.
Until you look at the Carabao Cup.
My own team done me.
3rd round. Now, that is an early exit on penalties because I got to the final. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 points I gain on you. Just from that alone, you need to rely on all your players getting points in the Premier League stats. And I got a feeling that's not going to be the case when you look at Mason Mount being your top scorer on 10 goals. And yes, no Manchester United players there.
Happy with my goal scorers than I didn't perform.
Not at all. Martinez, I mean, if you look at that, conceded-wise, Onana was even higher on mine, and he was out for most of the season. And the team overview, no Manchester United there. So no points, unfortunately. Let's assess the signings, though, before we tally up the total amount of points. Mason Mount got 16 goals. Bruno Fernandes, probably your best player there, 14 and 15.
That tells you something, doesn't it? My 2 attacking midfielders are my leading goal scorers.
Yeah, you should have played Rasmus more because he got 13 in just 20 appearances.
I didn't want to lock any of the strikers in because I thought, well, you got Rashford and Højlund in there, and I had what was it called, Barbosa. I had the 3 there, so I thought I'd just let them fight it out for it, really.
Well, I think it's a bad move, and I actually think your signings, considering you spent how long on them, were really poor. Because if you look at Barbosa, he played 5 games that he started, 17 off the bench. Christensen was probably the only one that played first-team football. Obviously, Martinez played majority of the time. He played more than Onana, but was he better or worse? Up for debate, really. Then I can't even remember the other guy that you signed because he was so irrelevant. There he is, Java Schlager. Actually, 27 games that he started, 17. A really poor average rating and only 3 assists.
I think out of the 4, 2 let me down and 2 were all right. I didn't have an outstanding one, really. The tactic just done me. It just threw me, and I just couldn't figure out how to work around it, really. And I made a few mistakes, real bad mistakes, didn't I?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. But I hope you enjoyed the first 1 season challenge. Let's look at the points. All right, Dad, you finished in total on just the 5 points that you won for winning the Europa League. However, I finished on 11 points because I got the 5 for winning the Europa League, 4 for reaching the Carabao Cup final, 1 for obviously finishing 1 place higher in the Prem, and 1 for that by India least conceded, which means I got 11 points to your 5. I get the £15 million on the next challenge, which you can suggest down in the comments. So I really hope you enjoyed the 1 season challenge. We're bringing them back. I'll see you on the next one. Why not check out this video on screen though, where Dad and I set out to do a youth to gold versus each other, where you can only sign teenagers and not allowed to use players 30 or above, and Dad doesn't have to use a 3 at the back.